Welcome to this Patreon first episode of Across the Bifrost. This is your host, Dr. Norbert, coming to you from the idyllic surroundings of Norfolk, England, where I'm at my artist's residence and fully relaxed mode. And with me tonight is somebody who's been tearing up the meta with a criminal syndicate list, none other than Conor Rooney, who you may also know as Insidiously Mad on the interwebs. Welcome, Conor.
Hello, glad to be here.
So good to have you here. We have you on today because not too long ago, you and I both went to the Multiverse of Malmo event, which is one of the most competitive events in Europe that happens in Malmo, Sweden. This was the third edition and the first time that you came along. What tempted you to come to the event?
So I actually wanted to go last year, but basically I was away at a wedding the same weekend it was on, or the week before, so couldn't justify 2 international trips within a 1 week span. And I've basically always wanted to go to Second Wind in Chicago, which is also in a brewery, but never managed to go. And now it coexists with WTC or too close together, so might not get to that in the near future. And Malmo had a lot of the same upsides of being in a brewery and being a 2-day event with people I'm friends with. And then I decided, since I'd never been to Sweden before, and my wife and I hadn't taken a proper holiday yet this year, that we'd just take the week off work and do some traveling after the event. And luckily for her, the event went well, so I wasn't a grump the whole trip.
Yes, I should say so. As a matter of fact, over the course of the 2 days, you managed to take it down. You won the entire event. Congratulations.
Yeah, I was very excited. It's despite all the years of gaming and big events I've played in and sometimes won, it's actually the first 2-day event I've won, so I was pretty excited by that.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. Fantastic.
Yeah, I have a really bad history of going undefeated on day 1 of events and then losing round 1 of day 2. So I was happy to avoid that this time.
Cool. And you mentioned Second Wind. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your tabletop background so people can understand where you're coming from?
Yeah, so I bought my first miniatures when I was 9 years old, which was a box of Games Workshop Gene Stealers. And it was a great box. Honestly, those models still hold up. And basically played Tyranids in 40K until I stopped playing in my mid-teens. And then in 10 years later, in my age 22, 23, whatever it was, I heard some of my friends at university who were a bit more on the gaming side, League of Legends players, Magic players, and which I never got into. I finally understood what they were talking about for once and was like, wait a second, I recognize some of these words. And then basically I dug out my 40K stuff out of my parents' garage and got back into it and started buying stuff and painting stuff again. And that's when I started going to tournaments my last couple of years of my undergrad. And then I moved over to the UK to go to grad school and
I should say that was from you were in Canada.
Yeah, that was all in the west coast of Canada, in Vancouver, and then Vancouver Island, where I went to university. And then basically I played some tournaments in Canada. I typically was an X and 1 level player, or sometimes lost 2. Did well, but was never really in the running to win events. 40K is a whole thing. And I only had 1 army that, was as the meta went. Sometimes it was a really strong army, and sometimes it was absolute garbage. But I couldn't afford to buy a second army. Mostly the time to paint it, to be honest. There were a couple times I started trying to collect another army, and by the time I got started getting stuff built, even before I started painting it, that list had been nerfed or made illegal. So it was all right, I'm just gonna stick with Tyranids. And then basically when I moved over to the UK, I started kind of playing a bit of other games. But the big jump was I started getting into fantasy, which I'd played a bit as a kid as well. And then the whole end times thing happened, AOS, etc., that everyone knows. I'd never gotten very into fantasy the way I had in 40K, but I was in the middle of a slow grow league when that all happened. And then a buddy of mine and I, who'd met through the slow grow league, realized we'd both bought some Malifaux stuff. and had like a couple demos in first edition. And we're like, oh, why don't we give second edition a go? And we ended up getting together a really strong, large group of Malifaux players in London. And I spent several years playing Malifaux. Made the finals of the UK Masters one year. It was kind of the first game I got like fairly competitive in, where I was actually winning events and competing at top tables. And then I picked up Guild Ball as like a side game to Malifaux. But then as second edition went on, I found the Malifaux like bloat was getting a bit much, and I was getting more and more into Guild Ball. So I kind of dropped Malifaux for the most part and got really into Guild Ball for a few years. And then I literally was playing Guild Ball competitively still the day that lockdown was announced. I was at Darksphere playing Guild Ball. And but yeah, it died to COVID. So I think I would. I honestly might still be playing it if COVID hadn't happened. It's a great game. Still the best competitive tournament game I've played. But the problem with Guild Ball is when you're not playing tournaments, there's really nothing to talk about because there's not much in terms of list building or it was a much more narrow game, which was good competitively, not so good when you're trying to keep a game alive during a pandemic. And the TTS mod for Guild Ball was not great. It was a bit of a running joke in our group of friends that there was a game we kept accidentally rolling models instead of dice, which was quite funny. But yeah, and then what happened is I picked up Infinity, Code 1, and then N4 during lockdown. Played some Infinity. Only ever played one tournament of it, but honestly think it's a great game, and I wish it was more common so I could play it more. And then basically, I was actually kind of anti-MCP for a while because I thought it was quite expensive for the quality of the models, especially early on. Yeah. And but basically, what happened is a couple of my friends I was playing Infinity with, who I'd played Guild Ball and Malifaux with, had gotten into it. James Reeves and Maria in particular. And James gave me a demo, and I was like, "Oh man, the mechanics for this game are fire! Like the core mechanics are really fun." And I played 2 demo games, one with webs and one with Magneto, and loved both. So those were the 2 things I was debating picking up. And then I actually watched a couple streams of MCP. One was by Chewy. And it was mostly him complaining about how much he hated webs and blaming Matt Alex. And the other one was watching Liam Watt play the TTS finals with a super tall Magneto list. And having seen those 2 lists competitively, I'm like, I think I'm more of a webs guy. And and then I basically played nothing but webs for quite a long time in MCP before the last couple of years. I've kind of splintered off and played a bunch of different stuff. Although I think I've still played 4 times as many games with Web Warriors as any other faction.
Yeah, well, that brings us around to this event, actually, because the next question I had is the fact that you brought Criminal Syndicate, and it's kind of an interesting Mephisto-focused build. What drove you away from webs? People know you for webs on the internet quite heavily, as Insidiously Mad. But yeah, so what shifted you?
So I'd been playing webs pretty solidly in prep for last WTC, where obviously we did quite well. Our team came second. I got the top individual result, going 6-0 with webs. And then I came second at the first London Weekender with a webs duel. And then basically it was kind of a combination of every year for the last couple of years, I've kind of wanted to take a break from webs so I don't burn out and play something else. But basically, after the first London Weekend, I was kind of messing around with Shadowland's Mephisto because I just thought Mephisto looked super cool. I was actually debating bringing that to the London Weekender or bringing Webb's Mephisto as my list. But the Mephisto model just took ages to arrive for me, so I just wasn't ready in time. And then,
when you say first London Weekender, which I assume you mean the Mute Weekender, do you mean the one that we did in January this year?
Yeah, the January one.
Okay, because there was one before.
You're right. There was one last year. So sorry, the first 2025 one, the January Mutant Weekender. Okay. And basically, after that, I just kind of wanted to mess with some stuff. They'd also announced somewhere in this period, they announced new webs models coming. which made me super excited, but also kind of discouraged to play them. Because it was like, well, we've got all sorts of new stuff coming, which is really exciting. And the current list felt a bit solved. So I had played a bunch. I kind of went back to factions I'd played before with a new light. And one of those was Mephisto's Shadowlands, and the other one was Wakanda. And I basically found I was preferring the Wakanda list. So for most of the last few months, up until the end of the second Mutant Weekender of the year, I've been playing Wakanda competitively, but my plan was basically to hit 20 ranked games with Wakanda and then switch it up again. And I did hit that at the second Mutant Weekender. I was a bit burned out of Wakanda at that point, and I'd been playing a mix of Webs, Criminals, and Wakanda in my like TTS games, and really enjoying the Shadowlands Mephisto list. And then I played a Eurovision League game against Akari, one of the top French players, who Jamie had a rough run-in with at the French GT.
Yeah.
With his Shadowlands Mephisto list, because the list has started taking off a bit. And I played against it and won by 1 point in a game where he had a Mephisto activation that KO'd 3 models and left injured Luke Cage on 1. And if Luke Cage dies there too, I just immediately lose the game. I was just like, he was playing Loki 2 in that list. And I was just like, oh my God, Loki 2 is nuts in this list. So that was at the point where I'd been playing a little bit of Kingpin already, but not, I think I played like 1 game of him, but he was in the list. And then I decided to cut Namor and Bucky from the list and kind of make it more of a combination of Kingpin and Shadowlands. So I took kind of inspiration from Akari's Shadowlands list to actually make my list more Kingpin focused, weirdly. But basically I added in Loki 2 and Mummy as models that, alongside Shang-Chi and some other models like Rhino and Bullseye, kind of fit under both leaders. And for the first time since I started playing Criminals, I actually thought that having Kingpin in there worked with Shadowlands. So that's kind of where I ended up on this Criminals Shadowlands Kingpin combination. And I'd been running Shadowlands focused secures for a while. And then basically a couple weeks before this event, I decided to start playing Kingpin secures because no one else was, which meant I never got to play Kingpin, which meant I got no reps with Kingpin. And so going into the event, I was debating how much to change up the list. But in the end, I kind of stuck with the Kingpin secures and then extracts that either leader was happy playing.
Yep. You did some early testing of this roster into me down at the Bad Moon Cafe. When was this in the sequence that you just outlined?
Yeah, so I think that might have actually been, if not my first Shadowlands Mephisto game, it was my second Shadowlands Mephisto game. Okay. So it was very early in the process. And that was still early on when I was running Shadowlands Mephisto earlier this year. It was very much a Shadowlands Mephisto and Bucky core. And I was playing sold at Bucky every game.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Crossbones Merciless Merc as well at the time. And both of them are out of the list now, partially due to the change in crises. I think we played on Gamma. And Bucky and Crossbones 2 were really strong in that list on E-shapes. But with E-shapes going away, I kind of found the value of Bucky decreasing. And when I added Kingpin into the list as a secondary game plan, Bucky just doesn't fit that side of the list. So there's only so many models you can take that only work under 1 leader in a 2-leader list.
Sure.
And I basically kind of felt I needed to cut one of Bucky or Zemo for a model that could be a bit more Kingpin-y, which ended up being Mummy. But I decided to cut Bucky over Zemo because I valued the mobility of Zemo more in the current context of the game. And also putting Loki 2 in as an affiliated 5 threat instead of Namor as a splash 5 threat also made it easier to just play more splash 3s.
Yeah. it's nuts. Loki 2 being affiliated is bonkers.
Yeah,
I played
it's really weird, and I love it.
I play him when I was doing my Asgard phase, and he was just fantastic. I mean, it's just like, wow. And I saw a lot of potential in him. He's just similar to Elsa Bloodstone, who's not such a great leader, in my opinion, anyway, but it's just a fantastic character in the affiliation. I found that Loki 2 is the same way in Asgard and in Crims, as it turns out.
Yeah, I think the thing with Loki 2 for me is a lot of people liked him with Thor 2 and on E-shapes, and he's lost a bit of shine in Asgard with those going away. But I have found that, like, in Shadowlands and Kingpin, and still in Asgard on the right secures, that aura can just be absolutely crazy when you've got other areas of chip damage. And the one thing I haven't tried yet, that I'm mostly because I don't own the model, but I really want to try it, is the Mysterio Grand Illusion thing, because Mysterio is also a criminal. And under Grand Illusion, Loki 2's damage just goes like off the charts. Because when their crits and skulls both count as your successes, it can get quite scary.
All right. Let us talk about the event. It was 4 rounds on the Saturday, and then it was broken up into pods, just like the Mutant Weekender kind of format. And those pods then did 3 rounds on the Sunday. Because you were in the top pod, you went 4-0 on the Saturday, and the top pod wasn't allowed to change its roster. So it's the same roster across both days, correct?
Yeah, same roster.
Okay. So for people at home, the Saturday event, I'll mention the number now if you want to take a look at some of the details. It is Longshank's number 22645. And let me review the roster with you guys now. We've talked about some of the tweaks we made, but here's the overall roster. So for characters, it was Mephisto, Loki 2, Kingpin, Shadowland Daredevil, Rhino, Black Cat, Bullseye, Shang-Chi, Baron Zemo, and the Living Mummy. So do you want to talk a little bit about which is your core for Daredevil and which is your core for Kingpin?
Yeah, so I think the Kingpin core is probably the easiest because it's the same Kingpin core of basically every Kingpin player. It's not particularly creative. It's basically Kingpin, Rhino, and Black Cat. Basically, Kingpin is a great model, great leadership. He plays the list that you score points by standing on things, and Rhino and Black Cat give you both models that are good at standing on things while running around. Both are really mobile, and both also bring steals. I didn't play Rhino in one Kingpin game, which I'll get to when that game comes up, because sometimes his size 4 can be a liability. But for the most part, Rhino and Black Cat are like the heart of the Kingpin game plan.
And is that because you're trying to get them to rotate on unoccupied points or secures? Is that it?
Yeah, so it's a combination of being able to rotate and also bringing steals.
Right.
But also Rhino is just an insane model in general. Like his ability to get to wherever terrain is and throw it, because he can always place off of things. His ability to like turn 1 also just like punch someone on the midline who grabbed a extract and place himself on your opponent's secure on like B and F shapes. It's really strong when he counts for 2. So like Rhino's just incredible, and Black Cat again, she puts in a lot of work. She's actually usually the first model I grab an extract with, so she'll be the model I kind of leave on the midline. Because that worth noting, I am playing 0 safe grabs in this list of any kind, not even Toad. So it very much is a plan to leave people on the midline and kind of hope for the best, which mostly works out. I had a rough warm-up game against Chillborns and Humans where it did not work out so well. But into most things, it works out fairly well. Because either Kingpin has tanky models, and then you play... I was playing Fallback as well, which helps. But yeah, that's the core for Kingpin. But I say that Bullseye is the only model I have played in all 7 games. I don't really consider him core though, but he kind of is, in that a lot of the time he ends up making the roster to make the points work. And you're often better off, because I'm not a big fan of any of the Criminals 3s other than Black Cat. You're often more likely to upgrade like a Splash 3 to a Splash 4 than you are to upgrade Bullseye to a 3. But yeah, with Shadowlands, it's a smaller core. It's literally just Shadowlands and Mephisto. I play those two every Shadowlands game. I like to compare Shadowlands Daredevil to a CEO who has no experience in the industry he's working in, but is really good at hiring people. And that's kind of what I view Shadowlands like. He doesn't really do very much. He's not very exciting. He does not perform up to a 4 threat level in any game, but he puts other models in the position to succeed with a combination of the ninjas, his leadership, and just having a lot of good criminals tactics cards. But also, he's quite happy to just be the guy who like stands on the midline and grabs an extract turn 1. And that was the other problem I had with the Bucky Soldat list, is you need to keep Shadowlands near Bucky turn 1 to set up the Soldat plays. But a lot of the times I found if it's a midline extract, Shadowlands is also the one I want to go grab it. So it was a bit tricky. So Shadowlands doesn't put in a ton of work, but the Mephisto helps him out a ton, as well as him helping Mephisto. Because mostly Shadowlands has no action compression. He hits okay once he's got power, but he has no action compression, but he doesn't mind taking a hit. So Mephisto can teleport him in to get punched, which not only stops Mephisto getting punched, it also puts Daredevil in a useful position. Because what you really want to be doing with him is buildering to get the grunts out and then spendering for the 9 dice spender.
Yep.
But that's quite hard if your opponent's smart normally, but Mephisto helps. And after those two models, it usually just comes down to what the board state is and how wide I want to go. So either Loki 2 if I want to play tall, or typically Zemo and some other models if I want to play wider. I only did end up playing Shadowlands once this game, and this is not the issue with the list, but I do find with this list, because I just have been on a prio winning streak recently, I find if you're running Shadowlands Crises, you tend to play Shadowlands, and as I was running Kingpin Crises, I tended to run Kingpin more, but there were at least like 4 games where I won prio or my opponent chose extracts, and in all of those games, if my opponent had won prio and chosen their secures, I would have played Shadowlands. So it was also just kind of turn 0 RNG that led me to play so much Kingpin this event. So I only played Shadowlands one event, but I did run the wider version with Zemo, Mummy, and Bullseye because it was a pay to flip versus Apocalypse. And I didn't really want to play 4 wide on a pay to flip.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what is it though that goes into your decision making then when you win priority and can choose either your secures or extracts?
So I'm pretty much always choosing secures with this list because I have, in this event, I ran the classic 3 Kingpin secures of Scoundrels, Riots, and Infinity. And basically, outside of Web Warriors, my plan was to always choose, Web Warriors and maybe Inhumans. Outside of that, I was going to pick secures if I won prio. Webs, I think I probably would have chosen extracts just because they run the same secures more or less. And then played Shadowlands Daredevil because I don't like the Kingpin into Webs matchup. And then, unless it got Scoundrels, then I probably just play Kingpin. And then Inhumans I've been struggling with because I was choosing extracts into them and they kept getting stuck on 16 and losing, which wasn't great. So I just gave up and put some civilians back in and was just going to pick secures into them. But thankfully I dodged Inhumans the whole event, which I was very happy about.
Okay, so this is really interesting though. So it seems like even though you're very keen on Shadowland Daredevil Mephisto's capability, your default is actually Kingpin.
Yeah, and this literally came from, I was originally playing the list with Kingpin and Shadowlands and running Shadowland secures because he's the leader I've played more and know better and really enjoy. Yeah. And what I was finding is basically I just meant I never played Kingpin because no one was running those secures. Everyone was playing either attrition secures or pay to flips. And the only other team running those secures was Web Warriors. And if I played against Web Warriors, I don't really want to play Kingpin because I think you kind of need to kill them. So basically what it meant was I either needed to go to a pure Shadowlands list, which is totally competitive. I mean, Akari did well with it. Bjorn at this event did well with it. It is a good list. But because I've legitimately, I just had painted Kingpin like a year and a half or 2 years ago and never played him. I was just quite keen to actually play some Kingpin. I think in the future I might try to find a balance between running a mix of Kingpin and Shadowland secures, which also makes it harder for your opponent to know what to pick of their extracts or secures. But at this event, I went pure Kingpin, mostly just because I was wanting to play some Kingpin. And but yeah, I think there's a legitimate argument to be made over mixing it up a bit more. But I will say, Scoundrels, which I flipped, I think 4 times this event, felt incredibly powerful. Interestingly, I think Web Warriors beat Kingpin on Scoundrels, but I will say my games on Scoundrels as Kingpin into other things felt stronger than Webs on Scoundrels into some of those other things.
Why is Kingpin so good on that secure? I mean, there's 5 of them, so there's more chances for him to own them.
It's a
less chance of long range attacks because of the cover. Is that it, or like what else?
That's most of it. But also, F shapes are really good for Kingpin. The list I'm running in particular, because Black Cat can kind of dive either of them from the center, can reach any of the 5 and swing it because she's worth 2. And more importantly, at the moment, actually, is Loki 2 does the same thing. And he does it while being a lot less likely to die.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Interesting.
And that'll come into some of my games for sure. But yeah, I think Scoundrels is a lock to stay. And I think what I'm going to do, I've got an event Saturday at Bad Moon, and I'm going to run a version of this list. But I think what I'm going to do is actually drop Riots for Intrusions to basically give me 1 Shadowland secure, and also means if I face Web Warriors, they won't want to choose my secure on the off chance I can pull Intrusions.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. For people at home, I'm tweaking a list as well because I do like Daredevil and Mephisto's interactions, and you and I have been talking about it. And I went with Scoundrel still because it's so strong for Kingpin. Intrusions for the reasons that you mentioned, but I went ahead with the Deadly Meteors to have 2/3 being more Daredevil focused.
I think the third one is definitely interesting because I've looked at Fisk, Wedding Party, Meteors, or just staying with Infinity, which is a great Kingpin one, which Shadowlands Mephisto is also quite capable on. But I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do with that yet.
Yeah, I'm still testing as well, so who knows?
The funny thing is I actually hadn't played this version of the roster very much prior to this event, and was mostly looking at this event as a chance to stress test the roster and kind of find what I like and don't like about it. But obviously it ended up being more like than dislike.
All right, the extracts were Struggle for the Cube, Mutant Extremist targets Senators, that's the 6 extract one, and Scrolls. And you said these were more Daredevil focused, is that right?
So these were kind of me trying to find ones that I was happy playing either leader on. But if I'm honest, I think coming out of this event, going into this event, the extracts were the thing I was least sure of. And coming out of the event, the extracts are the thing I'm least sure of. Yeah. I played against Chillborn, as I mentioned, my last game prior. It was the TTS final. And basically, that was the last game I played prior to this and lost. And I was running 2 different extracts in that. Scientific Samples and Inhuman Weapons for sure. And I forgot what the third one was. And I've basically been constantly bouncing around extracts with this list. And I haven't really found what I want to run with it yet. I played Cubes twice this event. It felt like a double-edged sword in both games. I think both games my opponent actually scored more extract points than me, but the cube damage was actually quite relevant. And I played Scrolls once, and it felt very neutral, as it does. I think it's a pretty neutral extract with Thanos and Deception gone.
I tried Scrolls with the Shadowland Daredevil thing, and the push, though, I feel is really punishing for
it's not great. It's not great. But yeah,
especially the ninjas. If you're trying to do a ninja play and give it the ninjas to give it to somebody else.
Yeah, I really don't like using the ninjas to grab the home scroll. Bjorn did that in our game, and he failed the push, and it meant I was able to reach them with some of my more threatening models.
Absolutely. It's not worth the risk, to be honest.
No, so I think... So I played Hammers 3 times this event. I didn't bring hammers, but I played it 3 times, and it went so well for me. And I liked 18 Threat so much that I'm debating putting hammers back in. The tossing it around with Kingpin is really strong. And then obviously giving a hammer to Mephisto or whoever with the ninjas turn 1 is quite strong too. I had hammers in the list for a long time, but when I cut Bucky, I also cut hammers because he was kind of the hammers plan. But I think in hindsight, I might put hammers back in. And then in human weapons, I also have mixed feelings on because I really like it in a lot of ways. But then I got absolutely blown up by Chillburns and humans on it. And I think there's teams like Wakanda that can do that too. But then I played Wakanda on it in the finals and it went super well for me. So I think I'm going to put hammers and inhuman weapons back in. And I'm undecided on which of the 3 I ran at this event I'm going to keep.
Okay.
But yeah, my view, the one thing of the list I would be least confident in and most like take what you want to other people is the extracts. Because it is more testing needed, especially since I kept winning Prio and playing on my secures.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Team Tactics cards are pretty straightforward. Brace for impact, fallback, all according to plan. Cruelty, no mercy, shadow organization. This is robbery, chi mastery, giant's blood, and recal. I would say the all those straightforward, all very good. Giant's blood, though. Tell us a little bit about how you've been able to use that, because I'm curious about whether to take it.
So I had Baron after all in that slot for Zemo.
Yep.
And it's one of the 2 slots I've kind of gone back and forth on a bit. And Liam Watt basically told me in a group chat we're in that I needed to play Giant's Blood because I hadn't played it. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a game. And basically every game I've played it has like had a massive swing effect. And I'm still not sure like how much of it has been actually score swing, but it absolutely has a mental damage on the opponent. And so in this event,
for people at home, this is where if somebody moves within 2 Loki, he can pay some power, and then everybody within 2 of him gets slow and root, and then he teleports 5 away, drops his extracts and teleports 5 away.
Yeah, so I have a few good Giant's Blood stories from this event, actually. But I think I ran it every game I played Loki to, and it got played every game. And basically, the downside is he can't be holding an extract when he plays it. Or, sorry, he can, but he drops it.
Yep.
Which is a downside. But the thing with Kingpin is teleporting him range 5 and him counting as 2 models makes it way easier to swing a secure than it would in a non-Kingpin list. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't play him in the Shadowlands game. I probably wouldn't run it in Shadowlands because that side of the list is more hungry for cards. But the Kingpin side is not, and it ended up being quite valuable. In the semi-final game, I actually burned it turn 1 because I double moved Loki onto one of his infinity formulas and was out of range for Mephisto to walk and do his range 3 thing. So Mephisto had to double walk instead and double walked onto the point, and then was going to do his bonus attack to get his token. But instead, I just immediately burned Giant's Blood and rooted him so he couldn't do it because it would have cost 3 power. And so I basically got Mephisto and Mummy rooted and slowed turn 1. And I didn't even teleport away. I just stayed where I was and just used it so that to screw up Mephisto's economy, because Mephisto hates root. He really hates root.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Is it fair to say, though, all the rest of the cards are not say straightforward, but to understand their role and
Yeah, the only one I'd mention really is Fallback. I think Sacrifice is the best card for the Shadowlands Mephisto list. I have gone back and forth on Sacrifice and Fallback a lot. I tested Indom as well, but it wasn't as good. But basically, I actually thought Sacrifice was in the list until I realized the app hadn't updated from the last time I changed it, and I'd uploaded it as Fallback for the event. So I actually thought until the first game that I was running Sacrifice, but it turns out I was running Fallback. But I think that ended up being good because I kept playing Kingpin, and I think fallback is better for the Kingpin side of the list. I am still not sure which of those cards I prefer, and I think I might test Sacrifice next time I play this list. But yeah, that's kind of the big debate in that slot.
How are you helping Mephisto with Sacrifice since he has essentially Sacrifice built in?
Well, yeah, so one of the secrets to Mephisto is one of the best ways to deal with him is actually just to attack him and force him to spend those tokens because it ruins his power economy and his ability to beam. And Sacrifice basically gives you a way to protect Mephisto without hurting his power and his token economy. It's also quite useful. Like that's the main plan for it, but it's also obviously useful elsewhere. Like you can use it to stop Web Warriors Venom blasting you when you're playing against them and stuff like that. Just standard. Sacrifice is just a really strong card, and I've been playing it a ton in Wakanda to really good effect. And I just think it's probably the second best restricted card in general. It's very close with fallback, but yeah, I think those two cards are just the two strongest restricteds other than Brace, and both have positives and negatives for the list. I think Sacrifice is better in a fight, but fallback really helps when you're not running a safe grab. And also is just better on spread out missions. So,
that's a good point about the safe grab bit. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let us talk about some of the matches. Oops. And I will call up the matches. Here we are. So, first match on Saturday was against Strand J. Not sure. Is he Swedish?
Yeah, he is Swedish, and I think this was his first big event. So he mentioned that he'd played some tournaments before, and he'd played for a long time, but he hadn't played in like a big event like this. And he was running a pretty competitive Red Skull 3 list, but the problems kind of came turn zero when he won Prio but chose Extracts, and then we flipped Scoundrels, and then he ran what would have been a really strong 18 on my other secures, but was not very good on Scoundrels because he ran both Bucky and Nebula. And I think they're both very bad models on Scoundrels because Nebula can never ignore the cover and Bucky very rarely gets to ignore the cover, and they both really don't like it. The interesting thing here is I chose 18 to run the list I was most excited to play in Kingpin, and it ended up being my favorite squad of the event, which was Kingpin, Loki 2, Rhino, Black Cat, Bullseye. And that list was super fun. It was interesting because he was actually wider than me. He went 6 wide. So it was quite an interesting matchup, but basically Loki 2 was able to do some really powerful stuff in this game. It was hammers as well. So I had turns where like Loki double tapped someone with a hammer, then threw the hammer to Kingpin and teleported Kingpin out of threat range of someone.
Oh, wow. Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Which was great. Had a very funny Giant's Blood where like Shang-Chi walked from one point to the one Loki was on. Loki Giant's Blooded to the point Shang-Chi was previously on. Shang-Chi had to charge backwards to where he started to get him. But yeah, overall, this game was pretty comfortable win for me. It started pretty rough for my opponent. They grabbed a side hammer with Bullseye, and I dazed Bullseye with Rhino turn 1. And then basically turn 2, Rhino double whiffed into Bullseye, but he parting shotted the second one, which gave me 3 power to then throw a size 4 into Shang-Chi, which he didn't brace, and then Shang-Chi rolled 0 blocks and dazed. So it was a really rough start for my opponent, but it was a really fun game. And it was my first, I think it was my second ever game with Loki 2 in Kingpin, and like he was awesome. Like I love what he does in that list.
Yeah. Are you quite aggressive with him? Is he like one of your frontline people?
Yeah. No, I would try to leave him. So the interesting thing is, one thing I never did the whole event was teleport someone turn 1 before they activated, which is obviously something you can do and like really ups threat ranges of people and stuff. And you can even use it to set up a safe grab on something like Inhuman Weapons. But I never actually did it because most of the time I wanted to keep him to last to either dive something or to basically bring someone who'd grabbed an extract back. But yeah, I think in at least half my games, I just like double walked him to an opponent's secure turn 1.
Okay. And so for the record, everybody, this was against a Red Skull 3 in Cabal, and you won that game 23-10, but without having priority, as we talked about. Okay. Second match was against Mans Holton. Mans Holton was playing Apocalypse. Let's see. He won priority, and so it was struggle for the cube and Guardian save Empress as the 2 crises, and 17 threat. How did this go down? You won this one 20-16.
Yeah, so this was a really tough one. So I think this is one of the hardest matchups for the list, and then I got caught on 17 with an odd extract, so he could go up. So this was not a great start for me. I went 5 wide with a Zemo, Mummy, and Bullseye alongside the main 2 to try to keep some sort of parity in terms of scoring. I knew exactly what he would run.
This is Daredevil and Mephisto this time.
So this is my one Daredevil game of the event.
Okay.
Which, and it was a bit stressful. Apocalypse is, I think, one of the strongest things in the game. It was a really good crisis setup for him. The board was quite good too. And basically, he ran Apocalypse, Beast, Magic, Toad, all very normal, and then Gambit. And oh boy, was Gambit absolutely terrifying. There was a moment in this game where Gambit just one-rounded Mephisto from full. And it was just an absolute disaster. But what actually ended up happening is Mephisto had done enough damage and put enough pressure on his models that he kind of was forced to spread out, which meant that Mephisto couldn't have a good activation, but also meant no one was really threatening to KO Mephisto other than Gambit. And Bullseye was able to make quick work of Gambit because Gambit had 2 health left at that point. Mm-hmm. I think what really swung this game was my opponent was up on points, and basically everything had kind of moved over to one flank except for Magic and Toad, who were each holding an extract. And I think he rotated Magic into the fight, and then Magic got dazed, and then Magic got KO'd. And I think I think he should have just moved Magic to the other bit and flipped the point that I had flipped earlier, and basically just let me outfight him, but just won on points. Now it may not have worked, but it wasn't like an obvious thing. But in the end, I managed to KO both Gambit and Magic, and then Bullseye, after KOing Gambit, was able to like do it while hitting, running, and then moving to the corner with 2 cubes.
Yeah.
And then he had a chance to either try and kill Zemo with Apocalypse or go with Beast and keep Apocalypse till later. He went with Beast, didn't kill Zemo. I think Zemo then dazed Beast, or Shadowlands ran away or something. And then basically at the end of the game, I'd flipped, I think, all 4 of the points or 3 of the 4 points, and held enough cubes to win. So Apocalypse just had too much work to do on his own, and he hadn't taken first one, so he couldn't do a crazy double activation thing.
Yeah.
I think Apocalypse should basically always be playing that card, personally. I think it's incredible.
Me too.
But yeah, I had Mephisto left to go last, and he could double walk and teleport off someone, and basically, because his teleport, I'm pretty sure, can target dazed models because you place before you choose the attack, which therefore meant my ability to get to like any of the crises to flip it was quite high. But he ended up missing his contested flip anyway, so I won that one. But it was really tough game.
Yeah, can you recall what the score was at the penultimate round? I'm curious because 2016 seems crazy.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it was. So I scored 2 cubes and 3 cubes. So I had 3 cubes and 3 thingies. So I would have been on 14 going into that round, and he would have been on 13, I think. So it was either 14-13 to me, or it was like, or I'm mixing it up and it was like 13-14 to him. Wow. But we both like almost got to 16 the previous turn.
Okay. Just remind me now, because this is for personal reasons. What was the team you brought again? Daredevil, Mephisto?
Zemo, Mummy, and Bullseye. It was basically Mephisto and Daredevil, and then I wanted to be 5 wide, so I played the 3 models that let me be 5 wide. And I don't like Black Cat in Shadowland, so I didn't really... and she's also terrible into Apocalypse, so...
Yeah. Okay, great. So there you are. Moving into round 3, we have your first non-Swede. There was a contingent of Belgians that came along. Good on you guys for coming to the event and helping support it. This was, of course, the great Nicky Bartels, who was playing Hydra, and he was playing Red Skull 2 as the leader. You won priority and ended up getting superpowered scoundrels. He got hammers.
Yeah, same as round 1.
Oh, yes, right, exactly. And 20 threat this time, and you won this quite handily, 16-9.
Yeah, this was a bit. It ended turn 3, so it was a bit rough. He also had a Shadowlands pivot, so I thought he might play that, but then when I got Scoundrels, I figured he'd be on Red Skull 2. So he ran Red Skull 2, Abomination, Sleeper Agent Bill, Zemo, and Taskmaster, which I quite liked. I went 6 wide with Kingpin, Rhino, Shang-Chi, Black Cat, Mummy, and Bullseye. So he did something quite good here. On hammers, if you put Abomination directly in the middle, he starts the game with 3 power because he gets the bonus Red Skull power in the power phase of turn 1, which means he can throw turn 1 with his long size 4 throw. And so he did that, and then he put Red Skull 2 across from one of the 2 hammers. So basically, I had the option of eating a size 4 to the face without brace, or getting punched by Red Skull 2 with counts blanks without cover. So this was the only game I think I didn't grab an extract with Black Cat turn 1 because I didn't want to eat a size 4 or get punched by Red Skull 2 because both of those get around all her defensive tech basically. So instead, I just double moved Rhino to grab the hammer that was in front of the size 4, and Abomination threw the size 4 into Rhino, and I think Rhino took 3 damage or 2 damage because he reduced 1. He might have blocked 1, so he took 3 damage or so and gained a bunch of power. And then basically it was kind of a standoff for the other one because neither of us wanted to grab it because his only model that could reach it was Red Skull 2. Eventually he did go grab it with Red Skull 2. I then walked and kicked Red Skull 2 with Shang-Chi, who did basically nothing, but did place himself on the Scoundrel. I got 3 Scoundrels that turn and 2 hammers, so I went up 5-4. So honestly, that's a pretty darn good start for the Red Skull player. Only going down 1 in this combo and winning the attrition turn 1. But turn 2 started pretty rough for him because basically Red Skull 2 went first, double tapped Shang-Chi in cover, and basically did nothing. I think he did like 1 damage. 6 dice counting blanks into 4 dice counting blanks in cover is not great. And yeah, so he didn't do very much. But he did get the triggers to retreat a bit. And then basically, because he went on that flank, Rhino was able to just like slide, move, punch, and like completely change sides of the board he was on. And then he threw his hammer to Shang-Chi because he'd taken damage and didn't want to die. And then sadly, Bill immediately double walked and threw Rhino into Shang-Chi, and Shang-Chi blocked 0 and died. But because of the positioning, Bill couldn't actually reach the extract, so Mummy was able to grab it. But basically, it ended up being a bit of him killing my stuff, and Kingpin just kept throwing Red Skull 2 medium away. And so I was in the lead, and then turn 3, I think I scored 7 to close it out. And I got to exactly 16. And I think if I don't get to 16 there, it could be quite bad. Because I think at that point, Bullseye was KO'd, and Shang-Chi, I think, might have been KO'd at that point, and it was starting to go badly. But basically, Rhino did his Rhino thing of like robberying someone and then dazing Red Skull 2 with a punch and a size 4 throw or whatnot. And then that let me close it out.
All right, interesting. So the last round for day 1 is against one of the top Swedish players, Bjorn Nilsson. He was playing, Shadowland Daredevil, actually. Yeah. Oh, exciting. So you won priority and pulled Scoundrels again. He pulled Scrolls and chose 20 Threat. And this, tight game, 17-16 in your favor.
Honestly, it was even closer than the score sounds. This literally came down to the last activation of the game.
Wow. Exciting.
Yeah, it was one of the closest games I've ever played, and I didn't think it was going to be this close because I got very lucky on the Crises pull, and this was basically best case scenario for me because Bjorn's a big Soldat Bucky fan, and he is not good on Scoundrels, so he didn't play him correctly. Played Taskmaster instead. But we both went 6 wide. I played the same list I played the previous game. He played Shadowlands, Mephisto, Zemo, Mummy, Bullseye, and then Taskmaster. So basically the same list I played in Shadowlands, but adding Taskmaster for 20. What happened in this game was pretty wild, though. It was very swingy, unlike my previous games. So turn 1, Shang-Chi grabs a side scroll in cover, doesn't get pushed, all great. Shadowlands Daredevil then walks up and throws a baton at Shang-Chi and just one-shots him.
Oh, wow.
That was bad. And because of what Baton Hook does, he gets the free advance. So then could also just walk into range to pick up the scroll. And at that point, I'm just like, well, have I already lost this game? Oh my God, what a disaster.
Yeah.
Thankfully, no. I think Bjorn made a bit of a mistake here. He'd grabbed the home scrolls with the ninjas. They'd failed and got pushed and then walked back, which is fine. I can't reach them. But then he moved Mummy to the center scoundrel. So Rhino was able to punch Mummy, and then I just spiked Mummy, and I think did 3 damage into Mummy in cover, which was pretty wild. And then basically placed off of Mummy, threw a size 2 into the ninjas who died and grabbed the ninjas scroll.
Yeah. Oh,
but then I failed the scroll roll again and got pushed towards Mephisto. So Mephisto started his activation within 3 of Rhino, and then I think again Bjorn got a bit greedy here, which let me keep Rhino alive. I can't remember exactly what the order of activations was, but basically the way he ordered it, I was able to use aggressive and fallback to get back on the central scoundrel and be outside of range 3 of his final attack.
Nice.
Which was absolutely clutch, and Rhino lived on 1. I got very lucky there. But basically Rhino lived on 1 turn 1 and scored the center scoundrel, so I still managed to go up 5-4 in what could have very easily been like a down 5-3 turn 1 with a dazed Rhino and a dazed Shang-Chi. Then it was really close after that. It was a really good game of like me rotating, Shang-Chi killing Shadowlands, Mephisto doing a bunch of damage, Taskmaster doing a bunch of damage. In the end, the last turn, he KO'd Kingpin, KO'd Bullseye, KO'd Mummy.
Wow.
Or Mummy might not be KO'd. Mummy might just be not scoring at the moment. I can't remember exactly. And basically, my Shang-Chi charged his Bullseye and left him on 1.
Oof.
Which is relevant. Bullseye got away. Shang-Chi was injured, standing on a point. So at this point, I have an injured Rhino, and he has a healthy Mummy and a healthy but 1 health Bullseye left. And he's currently scoring, I think, I was up 2 at this point, and he's basically scoring enough to win by 1. Or... Sorry, if Bullseye walks onto the point Shang-Chi is on, he will win by 1.
Okay.
And Mummy walks onto another point. So Mummy walks onto a point, and Rhino's been like sitting on the size 4 for like 2 turns, just scoring my back scoundrel while holding something and staying safe. So Rhino's got like 4 power or 5 power. So Rhino, not enough to push himself and do a terrain throw, importantly. But so Rhino then... He's done everyone but Bullseye because I passed. Rhino then walks, punches Bullseye, does 1 damage to daze Bullseye, places within 1 of Bullseye, and does the medium push to get onto the scoundrel with Taskmaster, who is his only injured model that's scoring 1 to deny that point, and I win by 1.
Oh, wow.
I think if he does Bullseye before Mummy, I probably just lose.
Yeah. You
not
gave
necessarily because I could spike, but like my odds were much lower. So I was just sitting there knowing what my out was and being like, I hope he doesn't see that if I kill Bullseye here, I can reach this other scoundrel and win.
Right. Did he recognize it after the game was over? Did you have a chat with him about it, or did he just overlook that?
No, I think he either overlooked it or forgot the Taskmaster was injured, or just because this was like Rhino going from my bottom left scoundrel to close to my top left scoundrel, and then having to get to the far right scoundrel still. So like, I think it may also have just been he didn't see the path.
The pattern, yeah, sure.
Because I know he's not playing Rhino in his list, so I'm not sure how much Rhino he has played. But it was the classic game. This is like one of the many games Rhino just won in a way that no model other than Rhino could win. And it wasn't even a robbery thing. His mobility is just crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I managed to win that by 1 and was just like, I would have been quite happy at 3-1 losing to Bjorn. He's an awesome player. We had a great game and he was definitely winning at that point. But you know, I played to my outs and I saw the path and I managed to close it out. So
yeah, amazing. All right. So that night we had some delicious barbecue at the,
great.
And you were enjoying some gluten-free beers or ciders. What were you drinking?
I had a couple gluten-free beers, but I was mostly on the mead, actually. The cherry mead they had was fantastic.
Yeah,
so
they
good.
had 40 different things. People were trying to make their way through the 40 list of 40, but not succeeding.
Yeah, I am not brave enough for that.
Okay, so Sunday, did you get a good night's sleep? I know we were at the same hotel. You certainly having good breakfast.
What a great hotel. Honestly, one of the nicest hotels I think I've ever stayed in, especially for the price. And especially given when we went to Stockholm, I was paying like significantly more than that for like 2 single beds that were like futons in a basement of a hostel. And it was like £50 more a night. I was like, oh man, Malmo is definitely the better deal, I gotta say. But yeah, no, I normally sleep quite poorly in the midst of 2-day events. But because my wife was there, it was a bit more like normal and less in the gaming mode. So I kind of I slept fairly well. And so basically I'm just going to have to start dragging my wife to more 2-day events is my main takeaway.
Sounds great. She was a lot of fun. It was great to meet her. Okay, so this is event number 26453. Your roster, as I said, stayed the same, and we're just going to call up your matches now. So first match was against, another one of the top Swedish players, David Johansson, also known as Werby. He was playing Professor X-Men, but you won priority and pulled Infinity Formula. He pulled Struggle for the Cube. You played on 17, and another tight game, 17-16. Yikes!
Again, I know.
Wow.
So it was actually my cubes and his Infinity. I chose extract with Prio here because basically we had 5 of the same 6 crises. So we had all the same secures and we had 1 different extract. So I picked my extracts, but really it didn't matter too much. This is one of the reasons I'm debating cutting cubes was this game. But basically what happened is he was playing Professor X, and I know he was a big fan of Jane, and he also had Rogue and Bill in his list. So I went away from my normal always play Rhino in Kingpin plan, especially since it was Infinity, which isn't as rotational a game as say like Riots. I think if it had been Riots, I probably still would have played Rhino and just run him away from his throw. But on Infinity, I was a bit worried about it. And at 17, if I wanted to play Loki 2, I couldn't play Rhino anyway. So I played Kingpin, Loki 2, Mummy, Black Cat, Bullseye. So basically my 18 list, but downgrading Rhino to Mummy. And he played Professor X, Jane, Angel, X-23, and Wong. And so his list is really interesting because it's basically only 2 output models. But because of that, the turn 1 threat extension is insane because Wong gives Angel a power, which then through Professor X gives Jane a power, which means that Angel can airlift Jane, and Jane can charge and double tap your home Infinity turn 1.
Ooh,
which is very scary. But I had Prio and had a really interesting decision because he's also set up where instead of doing that, Angel could have just stolen my home cube and run backwards with it. So I just grabbed my home cube instead of the center cube because I didn't have a safe grab anyway, and that way I wouldn't just get double tapped. But then because I forgot bloody X-23 stuff, X-23 is able to me, my X-Men, walk, grab the center, walk back, grab the other cube that I was planning to dive with Loki 2. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, she does that. And then she's going to heal the damage anyway. Yeah. And importantly, she ended up within 2 of where Professor X would go to basically make sure she had sacrificed for the next turn. So I dove his Infinity with Loki 2. X-23 didn't reach it. He dazed Bullseye turn 1 with Jane. But I did go up, I think, 5-4 again, because he had 3 cubes, but I scored 3 of the 4 secures. And then I had Prio. So Loki 2 hoped to kill X-23 and her 2 Mystic and 3 health because of the cube damage. But sadly, X-Men have a lot of defensive tech. So I did a builder in X-23, did like 4 damage or something, which was nowhere near enough because he just Xaviered the whole thing. Might have been 3, I don't really remember. It was enough to daze her, but he just Xaviered it. And then basically he could sacrifice the next attack. So I Spendered instead. But what I'd forgotten about is Professor X can't be moved by Mystic attacks. So even though I did damage to Professor X, I couldn't move him. So then he sacrificed into Professor X anyway. And I think I did like 3 or 4 damage to the Professor, but was unable to move him. So X-23 then immediately activates, double walks to the other side of the board where his whole team is and heals to full. And I was like, oh no, this is a problem at this point. This is not going well. But basically, what ended up happening most of this game was I was winning 3 secures pretty much the whole game. And he was holding 3 to 4 cubes pretty much the whole game. So the points were really close. But he was taking a lot more damage because of the cube damage.
Right.
Not as much as he would have because both Angel and X-23 have healing factor. But I was able to like daze X-23, who dropped her cubes. Bullseye then grabbed them, only to get dazed by Angel, who grabbed the cubes. Wong ended up with 2 cubes at one point, which is because there was a point where Black Cat had 2 cubes and was on 1 health, and his only model left was Wong. And then Wong walked up and did the 1 to Black Cat to get her, which is very sad.
Yes, that's the best.
Yeah, so it was a super tight game. And then what it came down to in the end was X-23 went with Prio and 1-rounded a injured Black Cat while running to the corner with his Spenders and Frenzy and whatnot. So got away with 2 cubes and took an activation off. Kingpin then dazed Professor X to lock up that side of the board for me. And then he had Angel, Wong, and Jane left, and I had Mummy and Loki 2 left. And Mummy was like on my back Infinity, not near anything, injured, just scoring that point. And basically Jane charged Loki 2 to get the rerolls. But Loki 2 then just teleported range 5 away and put Slow and Rude on her with Giant's Blood.
Oh, yes!
And much like Spider Tracker, you don't get the action refunded. So Jane just had to stand there, basically.
Oh, man, that's so nice.
And then basically Loki 2 was able to then just walk onto the point and score it over Wong, who'd been injured. And Angel just like walked up and Spendered Loki 2, but needed to one-shot Loki 2 with a Spender to win, and didn't. And then so did throw off the point, which is what made it 17-16 instead of 18-16.
I see.
But basically the Jane Giant's Blood situation probably won me the game.
Amazing. So second round, you a rematch against Bjorn playing his Shadowland Daredevil list again.
I was really hoping to avoid this because our first game was so close. This game was less close, thankfully for me.
Who won priority?
I won again. So winning Prio. So I lost Prio the first 2 rounds and then won it 5 straight. And it was super important in all those rounds because I kept, less so X-Men. The X-Men one didn't matter that much. But winning Prio twice into Bjorn and, spoiler, in the final against teams that really just want to fight you was really big. Because I think if I have to play Bjorn in the mirror, like if he wins Prio, I'm playing Shadowland's Mephisto. And then we're playing a super dicey mirror where he probably has more experience with the list than I do.
Yeah.
Now, it could go either way, obviously. And we've got quite different lists. Like, I'd probably end up playing Loki too. He would probably go wider with Bucky. So it's hard to say. But, yeah, I was much happier to not play the Shadowlands mirror. So this game was really interesting in that it came down...
Well, hang on. So it was Infinity Formula. You pulled Infinity Formula, and he pulled Hammers and chose 18th Threat, and you won 19-12. Go ahead.
So I was super happy he picked 18 because I love my Kingpin 18, as I said. So I played Kingpin, Loki 2, Rhino, Black Cat, Bullseye again, and he played Shadowlands, Mephisto, Zemo, Soldat, Bucky, and Mummy, which is a really strong list. But Mummy and Bucky and Shadowlands are all really bad at rotating on B-shapes. So while Zemo and Mephisto are great at it, the other 3 are not. So I kind of went into this being like, if I can rotate with the extracts, I can win this game. So I put everyone on my left flank. I mean, I didn't deploy that way because Zemo or Loki 2 and Cat can kind of get anywhere. But Loki 2 dove his left, my far left Infinity, so his Infinity on that side. And then, as I said earlier, Mephisto came over and I rooted him. But so we tied that point rather than me winning it because he had 2 models on it. But I scored my back 2 Infinities. We each had a hammer. The big key I made here, though, was I grabbed a hammer with Black Cat as usual, turn 1 on the side. He grabbed one with Zemo. And basically, normally I would be like, okay, I can walk punch Zemo with Rhino, place on his Infinity, etc., etc. But because he had sold that Bucky and Shadowlands is set up for the hop turn 1, I was like, if I eat 4 Bucky shots with a hammer turn 1, Rhino's probably just dead. So Rhino instead just like went on my home Infinity on a size 5 as far back as he could, and basically ensured that Bucky could only get 2 shots into him instead of 4.
Okay, that sounds good.
And I think Bucky still did like 3 or 4 to him turn 1, even in cover, because Bucky with a hammer can go crazy, especially with Zemo reroll and Shadowlands reroll. So Rhino took a bunch of damage. I then go with Prio with Rhino, and Rhino just like charges in and dazes Zemo and grabs his hammer. But I can't escape. So basically, I take the hammer, but I know I'm going to get dazed. For it. Mephisto then got super lucky. Despite all the root and everything, Mephisto spent his 2 attacks and his thing and did like 4 damage to Loki 2, leaving him on 3. And I was just like, well, surely he won't use his one of his only 2 tokens and 2 power because of root to go for like a sub 8% odds kill on Loki 2. And he did, and he got it. And I was like, so he devils dude Loki 2 needing 3 hits, not successes, hits on his thing. And he got it. So fair play to him for going for the high risk, high reward play. Or the high variance play, I should say. And he got it. So Loki 2 got 1 rounded by Mephisto, which was really rough. And then a bunch of other stuff happened that turn. I scored my points. I didn't score my back Infinity because Rhino got obliterated by Bucky with a hammer, which I was kind of expecting. This is the key mistake of the game, though, which Bjorn did say after the game was his big mistake of the game, which is Bucky killed Rhino. And then picked up the hammer. So Bucky was holding 2 hammers, which meant because I had Prio, because Loki 2 had dazed, which gave me back Prio, Rhino went first, attacked Bucky, did like a damage. It didn't matter. I was on 10 power already. and then basically robberied Bucky, threw him to nowhere towards the edge of the board, grabbed both hammers, slid, punched Mephisto, annoyingly whiffed the attack, but it did basically mean Rhino was now like completely on the other side of the board by the other infinity, and Shadowlands and Bucky were totally stranded. Zemo less so because he was powered up and is super fast. But basically what that ended up meaning is that Bucky and Shadowlands just scored 2 infinity points for the rest of the game and weren't part of the game. And all 4 hammers were on my flank where all my models were.
Yep.
And that basically led to me closing it out. He had a chance to win if Zemo managed to one-shot both, or not win, but like not lose immediately. If Bullseye managed to die to a one-shot from Zemo, and then Zemo one-shot Black Cat, but that didn't happen. He didn't even get either of them.
No.
And so I won 19-12.
Amazing.
It was a big. Also, there's a huge Loki 2 activation where he spendered Mephisto, Zemo, and Mummy twice. But didn't roll very well, but did end up getting Mummy at least, and like walked Mephisto away, so he couldn't really threaten anyone. So yeah, that was the whole game really came down to I was able to rotate to one side with all the hammers, which is often what happens in B shapes.
Yeah.
There's another. It was like my 3rd game where Rhino won me the game.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, now I want to talk about the final, which is exciting because it was a non-Swede who was undefeated going into it against you. This is Alfred Mofar Sosgornik, and he's from Poland. He came from Poland to play this game and was playing M'Baku Wakanda. You won priority yet again, pulled Superpower Scoundrels yet again. He pulled Inhumans Deploy, chose 18th Threat, but the score, 13-3 in your favor. Whoa, it's surprising.
Yeah, so he was, so much like myself, actually, this was his first event running Wakanda with this list, much like it was my first event running Criminals, which was quite funny. But basically, his Wakanda list is basically exactly what I'd been running in Wakanda when I got the Wakanda badge not that long ago. I've cut Storm since for another model, but he had 9 of the same. He had like 9 of the same 10 models I do, most of the same crises, same tactics. So I knew exactly what his list wanted to do. And then I got the perfect crises pull because it was my best secure into Wakanda and my best of his extracts because it was his only 4-wide one, I believe. And then I think my opponent, who was already in a bit of a rough spot there and was pretty exacerbated after the crisis pull already, because he wasn't really running any tech for this, like Shuri or Shang-Chi, which, to be fair, I'm not either in the moment in Wakanda. And after this game, I'm like, maybe I should be. But what happened was he played almost exactly what I expected he would, with one glaring difference, which ended up being super relevant. So he played M'Baku, King T, Killmonger, Okoye, and Storm. So if I was in his situation, I would have played those first 4 models and then Luke Cage, who was in his list, because 1, it helps protect your other models, and 2, it gives you someone who can grab an inhuman weapon turn 1 other than M'Baku. So what ended up happening is Black Cat went first, grabbed the safest inhuman weapon behind a size 3. M'Baku then grabbed the other inhuman weapon on that side. Kingpin then grabbed an inhuman weapon as far away from King T as possible, which left the 4th inhuman weapon sitting directly in front of my Scoundrel and Rhino. And Loki 2 was around there as well. And so what happened was he had to choose between grabbing it with one of Storm, Okoye, or King T, or just leaving it. And none of those options are really great, to be honest, which is why I think he should have played Luke Cage. But I think I would have just grabbed it with Okoye and hoped for the best, personally. But he left it, which meant Rhino could double move and grab it while staying on a Scoundrel. And then my last activation, Loki 2 moved, teleported Black Cat from the center line onto his home Scoundrel. So I was now scoring it because he only had 1 model there, and then walked onto the center. So before King T went, I was scoring 4 secures and 3 extracts.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So King T then pulled Loki 2 off the point, but because of my skulls, I think he rolled a skull or 2. So he only did 1 damage to Loki, which therefore meant he couldn't afford to teleport onto the center. So he went down 6-2 turn 1.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
And I had Prio. And so with Prio, Black Cat just ran away. So she just double long moved behind a size 5 with her extract.
Yeah.
So he had usurped the throne because he was playing Killmonger. So he decided to choose aggression, and he walked and charged Loki 2 with Killmonger. Now, given the previous games we've discussed, what do you think happened?
Yeah.
So Loki 2 giants blooded, teleported range 5 away. Killmonger lost his attack, and now Killmonger and King T are both slow and rooted.
Oh, man. Oh,
and
God.
Loki 2 teleported range 5 to his home scoundrel where Storm and Okoye were. Loki 2 then activated and killed Okoye in one shot and killed Storm in one shot.
Oh, no. Oh, God.
And so at that point, my opponents lost 2 activations that before going. Really 3, because Killmonger did nothing.
Right.
And I was already up big, so I think M'Baku did walked and did a builder into Bullseye and did 2 damage, and then Bullseye just moved back onto the point and scored it over him. And Rhino punched someone and teleported. And basically, after King T just needed to get lucky and spike me, and did 3 or so damage to Rhino in his 1 attack he got, which is good but not good enough. So I ended up scoring 7 points to his 1 that turn.
Yeah.
The 1 being the extract that was still on M'Baku from turn 1.
Yeah.
And at that point, my opponent just conceded.
Sure.
Basically said he didn't want to ruin the day, and he didn't see a way of coming back. And I was like, yeah, no, that's fair. And he was, he was less salty than I think many would be in that situation. He was clearly frustrated. I think he got really unlucky in the crises flip. I think his turn 0 and turn 1 did not go well. And then, it's just completely, he needed dice to save him. And then the dice also went my way. Yeah, so it was a rough one. So it was a bit of a sad ending for him, having made it all the way to the final. So we were the first game done that round. So it was a bit of an odd situation to be oh, I've won the tournament. But everyone's still playing.
Yeah. Wow. Well, look, congratulations. That sounds like an amazing run. A lot, and as usual, people should take a note that in addition to fantastic gameplay, there's a lot of things that went your way, particularly crises and priority rolls. It seems like so. That's part of playing a tournament. I also wanted to point out the top 8 pod, so the first pod on day 2 was remarkably full of non-Swedes. So a really interesting event from the point of view of the competitiveness level. There were 3 Swedes in the top 8, 1 Belgian, 2 Polish, and 2 from the UK, which is really great for the state of the game, I think.
Yeah, and a decent mix of factions at the event as well. And to be honest, the faction that did the best was Criminal Syndicate. With 2 of us in top 8 and Bjorn only losing to me and Pat in the entire event. And Apocalypse as well, but everyone knows Apocalypse is great. But yeah, no one's really been talking as much about Criminals as some of the other stuff. So it was cool to see them do so well. And I think they are in a really strong spot at the moment. But I also think a lot of things are in a strong spot at the moment. And if Wakanda get their crises in the final, and I have to play a Shadowlands Mephisto versus Wakanda game, I've played that on both sides, and it's absolutely a nail-biter 50-50. So, I will hope to continue getting scoundrels in all my games.
Amazing. All right, cool. Look, thanks again for coming on to the show and giving us this really interesting rundown of maybe one of the emerging meta monsters, actually. And how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I'm on Discord probably too much at Insidiously Mad. Other than that, that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me, to be honest. I don't really go on Twitter anymore. So, just hit me up on Discord. I'll pretty much always respond to people who message me unless I miss it. But I will get to those messages eventually. And I'm always chatting in the Taco Truck Discord and the general Discord and various other Discords. So, if anyone has any questions, feel free to hit me up. I think the list is still very much in progress, even for me. But I think the combination of Kingpins and Shadowlands has never really worked in the past. And I think with some of the new models and the way the game is right now, it actually feels really strong.
Seems like it. Yeah. Amazing. Well, I'm looking forward to delving into it more myself. I had a couple of practice games for it now, and we'll be playing it at the London GT at the end of June.
Very nice.
Cool. All right, everybody. Thanks again for listening. Particularly thank you to all the Patreons who've made this possible. We really appreciate all the support that you give us, and we hope this content makes your donations to us feel worthwhile. So thanks very much for that. And also thanks for everybody who's listening to this. And please do chat about it on our Discord. Across the Bifrost has its own Discord. It's open to everybody, so feel free to jump on there and let us know your thoughts. Until next time then, cheers and happy gaming.